The hospital room smelled of antiseptic, the pain in my abdomen like a knife twisting deeper. It was Christmas Eve at Las Vegas Medical Center, and I, Natasha Wilson, 33, sat clutching my phone, trembling. My 2-year-old twins, Ethan and Emily, played quietly in the corner, unaware of the storm inside me. Nurse Valerie checked my vitals, her eyes kind, while my mother's voice roared through a video call. "Don't you dare ask us to cancel our Elton John tickets," she yelled, her face cold. "We've had these for months." I froze, stunned. Internal bleeding from complications after my husband's death 6 months ago had landed me here, needing emergency surgery. I'd exhausted every option before calling my parents, begging them to watch the twins. But their concert and Christmas Eve with my sister Jessica mattered more. My father's words cut deeper. "You're a burden, Natasha. We're retired. We deserve our lives." A burden. Me, who'd sent them $2,500 monthly for years, even after James died. I'd always been the afterthought. Jessica, the golden child, got their love, I got their indifference. Now, facing surgery that might leave my twins motherless, I saw it clearly, they didn't care. Tears fell onto the hospital blanket, but Valerie's hand on my shoulder steadied me. "My friend Olivia's a nanny who helps kids with trauma," she said softly. "Let me call her." Her kindness pierced the fog of my parents' cruelty. The twins, too young to understand, giggled, clutching their toys. They'd lost their father to a drunk driver. Now, I might not make it through surgery. The thought of leaving them with my parents, who saw them as nuisances, terrified me. I looked at Valerie, resolve hardening through the pain. "Yes, call her," I said, voice steady. In that moment, I wasn't just fighting for my life, I was choosing to break free from a family that never loved me. My phone went silent, my parents' faces gone from the screen. The hospital hummed around me, but inside, a shift began. I'd spent years seeking their approval, giving them money, hoping for scraps of care. No more. As Valerie dialed Olivia, I felt the weight of their neglect lift, replaced by a spark of something new, determination to protect my twins and myself, no matter what came next. Growing up, I was the shadow in my family's spotlight, always one step behind my younger sister, Jessica. Our parents showered her with praise, her school plays, her dance recitals, her every breath was golden. I was Natasha, the older one, expected to be fine, to need less. At 10, I won a spelling bee, clutching my certificate, but Mom barely glanced up from Jessica's art project. "That's nice, Natasha," she said, distracted. Jessica's crayon drawing got framed. When I graduated college with honors at 22, I scanned the crowd for my parents, heart hopeful. They weren't there. Jessica had landed a local commercial that weekend, and they'd driven hours to watch her. My calls went unanswered. Later, Dad said, "We knew you'd understand." I didn't. At my wedding to James, they complained the venue was too far, barely staying for the reception. When Ethan and Emily were born, they visited once, calling the twins fussy before leaving early. James saw it all, his own father's absence mirroring my pain. "We'll make our own family," he'd say, his voice warm. We did, filling our home with love, laughter, and the twins' tiny footsteps. But 6 months ago, a drunk driver took him, leaving me to navigate grief alone. Even then, my parents offered nothing, no visits, no calls, just a card with sorry scrawled inside. I buried my hurt, focusing on the twins, still sending my parents $2,500 monthly to cover their mortgage, believing family meant sacrifice. That belief shattered in the hospital. Their refusal to help, their cold words, burden, nuisance, echoed every slight from childhood. I'd spent years chasing their approval, excusing their neglect because they were my parents. But as I lay there, pain searing my body, I saw the truth: they'd never loved me the way parents should. Jessica got their warmth, I got their expectations, their indifference. I thought of the twins, playing in the hospital corner, unaware of the grandparents who didn't care. They deserved better, a mother who'd fight for them, who'd break the cycle of neglect. My childhood had been a lesson in being overlooked, but it also taught me resilience. I'd built a life despite them, and now, facing surgery, I'd build a future without them. The hospital room felt smaller, but my resolve grew. I wasn't the girl begging for their attention anymore. I was Natasha, a mother, and I'd protect my family, no matter the cost. 3 years ago, my parents took early retirement, their savings thin but their dreams big. "We'll manage," Mom said, eyes bright with plans for cruises and concerts. I started sending them $2,500 monthly to cover their mortgage and expenses, a decision born of love and duty. At 30, I was a graphic designer, married to James, with newborn twins. The money stretched us thin, but I wanted to be the daughter they could rely on, unlike the one they'd always overlooked. After James died 6 months ago, the payments became a heavier burden. Grief and medical bills piled up, and raising Ethan and Emily alone drained my energy. Still, I sent the money, even increasing it when Mom mentioned inflation squeezing their budget. "You're a lifesaver, Natasha," she'd say, but they never asked how I was coping, never offered to help with the twins. I told myself it was fine, family helped family, no matter what. In the hospital, facing emergency surgery, their refusal to watch the twins exposed the lie I'd lived. I'd poured thousands into their lives, sacrificing my own stability, while they prioritized a concert. Dad's words, "We deserve our lives," stung like a slap. I'd been their bank, not their daughter, enabling their lavish retirement while they dismissed my crisis. The $2,500 I'd send next week loomed in my mind, money that could pay for childcare, for my twins' safety. I thought of James, how he'd urged me to build a family that valued love over obligation. I'd failed him, clinging to parents who saw me as a means to an end. Every check I'd sent was a plea for their approval, a hope they'd finally see me. But they hadn't. They'd taken my money and left me to face surgery alone, my twins at risk. The realization burned, my loyalty had been a one-way street. As Valerie arranged for Olivia, the nanny, I felt a shift. The twins needed me, not just to survive but to thrive, and I couldn't do that while tethered to my parents' demands. I'd given them years of support, but they'd given me nothing but neglect. In the hospital's sterile light, I saw clearly, my family was Ethan, Emily, and me. The money, the duty, the guilt, it had to end. I wasn't just fighting for my life in that operating room, I was fighting for a future where my twins came first, free from the weight of a family that never cared. In the hospital, the pain in my abdomen was relentless, but my parents' words, burden, nuisance, cut deeper. Ethan and Emily played quietly, their small voices a lifeline as I faced surgery that could take me from them. Valerie's offer to call Olivia, a nanny skilled with traumatized kids, was a flicker of hope. As she dialed, I made a choice. My parents had chosen a concert over my twins, I'd choose my family over their demands. I asked for my phone, hands shaking, and opened my banking app. With a few taps, I canceled all future $2,500 transfers to my parents. The weight of that action hit hard, years of financial support, gone. Then, I typed a message to them, "I'm done. My children and I deserve better than being your afterthoughts. Don't contact me." I hit send, my heart pounding, not with fear but with clarity. The twins deserved a mother who fought for them, not one drained by guilt. Valerie returned, confirming Olivia would arrive soon. "She's amazing," she said, her smile steadying me. I nodded, the reality of surgery looming. The twins might lose me, but they wouldn't lose their safety to grandparents who didn't care. Olivia arrived, her warmth instantly easing Ethan and Emily's fears. She knelt, talking to them softly, and they smiled, something my parents never bothered to earn. As the staff prepped me for surgery, I felt a strange peace. Canceling the payments, cutting contact, it wasn't just about money. It was about reclaiming my worth. I'd spent my life seeking my parents' love, giving them everything, only to be dismissed in my darkest hour. James's voice echoed, "Build a family that knows how to love." I was doing that now, for the twins, for myself. They wheeled me toward the operating room, the ceiling lights blurring above. Fear lingered, surgery wasn't guaranteed, but so did freedom. I wasn't the daughter begging for scraps anymore. I was Natasha, a mother, breaking free from a family that saw me as a tool. The twins would have Olivia's care, not my parents' neglect. As the anesthesia took hold, I held on to that truth: I'd chosen my children, and that choice was the strongest thing I'd ever done. The surgery saved my life, but recovery was slow, my body weak and aching. For 5 days in the hospital, I drifted in and out, the twins' laughter pulling me back. Olivia stayed with them, sleeping in my room during the day, taking them to my apartment at night. Her care was a gift, a stark contrast to my parents' absence. My phone blinked with 27 missed calls and texts from them and Jessica, but none asked about my surgery or the twins, only their mortgage, their panic. Dad's final message was blunt: "You can't cut us off. We need that money for our cruise." Jessica's texts were different, confused. Mom said it was a minor procedure. Why are they freaking out? I realized my parents had lied to her, downplaying my emergency to justify their concert. Groggy, I typed the truth: it was emergency surgery. I could have died. They refused to watch the twins for Elton John tickets. Her reply came fast: "I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I'd have helped." I ignored my parents' messages, their anger predictable, demands, guilt trips, no concern. Olivia's presence and Jessica's regret gave me strength. I wasn't alone, not entirely. The twins needed me to heal, to build a life free from my parents' shadow. I thought of the $2,500 I'd redirected from them to Olivia's care, money that kept Ethan and Emily safe. It felt right, like reclaiming a piece of myself. Discharged, I returned home, the twins clinging to me. My body ached, but my resolve was firm. I wouldn't answer my parents, wouldn't bend. They'd shown who they were: selfish, entitled, unchanged. Jessica's apology lingered, a crack in the family facade. She hadn't known the truth, raised to believe she was the center, but her shock felt genuine. I wasn't ready to trust her fully, but I let her words sit, a small bridge to something new. Each day, I grew stronger, defiance replacing guilt. My parents' silence after their initial barrage spoke volumes. They didn't care about me, only their lifestyle. I held the twins close, their warmth grounding me. James's dream of a loving family was alive in them, not in the parents who'd failed me. I'd survived surgery, survived their neglect, and I'd keep surviving, building a life where my children came first, no matter who tried to pull me back. Back home, recovery was a battle, but I wasn't alone anymore. I hired Olivia part-time to help with Ethan and Emily, her gentle presence a lifeline for us all. I contacted a lawyer to draft a will, naming a trusted friend as the twins' guardian, not my parents, never them. Valerie connected me to a support group for young widowed parents, their Zoom meetings a safe space to share my grief for James and my anger at my family. The group became my anchor. I met Diana, a real estate agent and widow, who understood my pain. We talked for hours, swapping stories of loss and resilience, and I felt seen, not as an afterthought but as a person. My neighbors dropped off meals, and a second cousin offered free babysitting. Jessica started visiting, bringing food and playing with the twins. "I didn't see how they treated you," she admitted, eyes down. "They made it seem like you pulled away." I nodded, cautious but open. She was starting to see our parents' manipulation. Jessica's visits grew regular, her bond with the twins warming my heart. She wasn't the spoiled sister I'd resented, she'd been shaped by our parents' favoritism, just as I'd been shaped by their neglect. We talked, slowly rebuilding a connection, not as rivals but as sisters. Her horror at our parents' actions, lying about my surgery, dismissing the twins, felt real, and I let myself hope for something new. My parents' messages continued, angry demands about money, no mention of my health. I blocked their numbers, allowing Jessica limited contact as I gauged her sincerity. The $2,500 I'd once sent them now funded Olivia's help and eased my financial strain. I could breathe, focus on healing, on the twins. My graphic design clients were patient, letting me work from home, and I started sketching again, ideas for a side project inspired by James's memory. Ethan and Emily's laughter filled our apartment, a reminder of why I'd cut ties. I wasn't just surviving, I was building a community, a family of choice. The support group, Jessica, Olivia, even strangers who stepped up, they showed me what family could be. My parents had failed me, but I wouldn't fail my twins. Each step forward, each connection, was a brick in a new foundation, one built on love, not obligation, strong enough to carry us through. Weeks after surgery, my parents showed up at my apartment, unannounced. Through the peephole, I saw Mom clutching her designer purse, Dad's arms crossed, impatient. My heart pounded, but I opened the door a crack. "What do you want?" I asked, voice steady. Mom's tone was syrupy. "We've been so worried, Natasha." I didn't buy it. Dad cut in, "We need to talk about this financial nonsense. The bank called about our mortgage." Their audacity stunned me. No questions about my surgery, the twins, just money. "I'm done supporting you," I said, gripping the door. Mom's voice rose, "We depend on that money. You promised to help." Promised? I'd helped out of guilt, not obligation. "I was in emergency surgery," I snapped. "You chose a concert over my kids." Dad's face hardened. "We had plans. One mistake doesn't justify this." "One mistake?" I echoed, anger flaring. "You've ignored me my whole life, ignored your grandchildren. I could have died, and you didn't care." Silence. Mom's eyes darted to Emily, toddling nearby with her giraffe. "There's my grandbaby," she cooed, reaching out. Emily hid behind me, unsure. "They don't know you," I said, cold. "You've seen them 3 times. Dad bristled, "We're your parents. Show some respect." "Respect?" I laughed bitterly. "I'm a parent, too, and I'd never treat my kids like you've treated me." Mom's face crumpled, "Maybe real, maybe fake. Without your money, we'll lose everything," she whispered. I thought of James, the twins, the life I was rebuilding. "I lost my husband," I said, calm now. "My kids lost their dad. We survived. You will, too." I closed the door, their protests fading. The next day, they returned with Aunt Patty, the family peacemaker. "Be reasonable, Natasha," she pleaded through the door. "They're struggling." I stood firm. They chose retirement knowing their savings were short. "I'm recovering, raising 2 kids. This isn't my burden." Mom's voice broke in, "We'll lose the house." I walked away, their knocking echoing. I'd spent years carrying their weight, now, I carried only my twins' future. Ethan's giggle pulled me back, his truck zooming across the floor. My parents' demands couldn't touch me anymore. I was Natasha, a mother, not their bank. Their entitlement had clarified my path, my children came first, always. I held Emily close, her warmth my anchor, and knew I'd made the right choice, no matter what they said.